These people lied on the stand to put my husband in federal prison. They had committed crimes in China and in the United States. He did nothing wrong, and nothing he did furthered anything against them. So he's supposed to turn himself in a week from Monday in Michigan. We didn't even know that he was supposed to go to Michigan. Nobody told us. We had to find out on our own. They're sending him 600 miles away, 600 miles away from our family. He did nothing wrong. So he's supposed to turn himself in a week from today for 18 months. The judge gave him 18 months. And for what?
Martha Byrne is a 3-time Emmy-winning, Daytime Emmy-winning actress. You may know her from the soap operas she was in, and now she's a writer with a purpose. Her husband's in deep trouble, not because he did anything illegal. This is a story you need to pay attention to, because it's a story that's not just Martha's. It's a story that goes on more often than you think and more often than we like to accept or like to admit. Before we go any further, please click subscribe. Never miss an episode. We'd love to have you with us every single episode. Just have it right there in your mailbox. Also, we've got a great catalog, a great library of stuff that we've recorded over the past few years that you want to delve into. But Martha Byrne's new book is called In the Interest of Justice. Her husband, former NYPD, a 9/11 hero, suffering 9/11 disease, a guy who won many medals of honor, became a private eye after being injured, and she'll detail that. And then he got arrested. And now he's expected to turn himself into a federal prison for 18 months for a crime he didn't commit. And he's got to do it 600 miles away from his family. This is the kind of stuff that some actors in the FBI are capable of. Martha Byrne, mother of 3, 3-time Emmy winner, author, and activist now, is our guest next. Martha, it is great to meet you finally. I've been keeping track of your story, but for the benefit of everyone listening, I'd love to start at the beginning. Your husband is in trouble right now. When did this start? How did this start? Some of the stories that we tell on this podcast could keep you awake at night, but here's what you can do to help. It's called Sleep Cream, CREME.com. It's an all-natural CBD-based topical that you put right on your skin at bedtime. I usually put it on the insides of my forearms, maybe the bottoms of my feet, and they smell fantastic. While the lavender is my favorite, they have a new rose-scented one out that is Sleep Cream Rose. It's awesome. But here's the best part. It works. And if it doesn't work for you, just let them know, and they'll give you your money back within the first 30 days. That's a guarantee. That's a guarantee. Sleep Cream, CREME.com. Use the code HOMERUN at checkout to get free standard shipping on your first order. That's the code HOMERUN at checkout for free standard shipping on your first order. If you want to sleep better, use what I use. That is Sleep Cream. Sleep, CREME.com, sleepcream.com. When did this start? How did this start?
Well, my husband is a retired NYPD sergeant, hero, 9/11 first responder, very busy, active cop in the NYPD when he was on the job, and was in a severe car accident on the job in a police chase, and it ended his career in the NYPD, and he was devastated. So he switched gears, became a private investigator, and became one of the most sought after PIs actually in the tri-state area. He was working did a case for the Vatican. Like he wasn't just chasing cheating husbands. He was the guy that everybody called to help them because he was so good at the job. And he had a routine call in 2016, some background searches. Allegedly, this client of his had millions of dollars stolen from his family business in China, but he was hired by a New York-based company to help this person. Did a couple of days of surveillance, some asset searches, background checks, very routine, brought in 2 NYPD retired detectives to work with him on it. He was never alone on surveillance. Notified the local police he was doing surveillance. I mean, my husband does everything by the book. He's that guy.
Yeah.
That was 2016 and April of 17, and never thought about it again. And 4 years later, they came to our house and arrested him in a pre-dawn raid.
And when you say they, you're talking about the FBI.
Yeah, FBI. I mean, it was so unlike Mike was saying, my husband Mike, he said this was unlike any, he's like, I've served so many search warrants in my life, in my career. It was the most bizarre experience. They were kind, they were petting my dog, they let him walk freely in the house. They didn't take his guns, they didn't take his computers, his phone, nothing. They didn't go to his home office. It was like, is this really happening? And he thought it was a mistake, because when he found out it was for working for China, he go, okay, this is crazy. So he spoke freely to the FBI that morning. They didn't tell him what he was arrested for, and he thought it was a mistake. Like, he thought, well, let me just help, and maybe I can catch the bad guys with these, because he's worked with the FBI before in cases. And he was arrested for violating the Foreign Agents Registration Act, which is, again, you've probably heard a little bit about it just from Hunter Biden and like other people who have been arrested for it, when it's about a foreign government. You're trying to influence someone in the United States. There was no foreign connection to my husband's case. No evidence showed there's no foreign government connection. And yet they arrested him for that and interstate stalking. But he was parked in a public street. He was never seen by the alleged victims. They couldn't identify him in court. There were no police reports that they had been followed, no license plate, no photographs. So we thought, okay, something else is going on here, but we're going to fight it. Well, if you fight the government, if you decide that you're going to fight back, which, as I'm sure everybody knows that's listening to this, that they win 99% of their cases, the federal government, and there's a reason. Suppression of evidence. And so we were all in, and it just got worse from there. I mean, we went to trial, and then evidence wasn't allowed in. We were denied. His interrogation video couldn't be shown to the jury. The $30 million civil lawsuit against the subject that he followed was not allowed in. The crimes of the alleged victims, which was immigration fraud, money laundering, all these things that they had committed in the United States, we couldn't ask the alleged victims about it. So it seemed like we never won. We never got a ruling in 4.5 years from the judge in our favor. And he was found not guilty of count 1, which was the big one, which was conspiring with a foreign government to violate FARA, but he was found guilty of FARA, which is an administrative kind of thing, and interstate stalking. I'm telling you, it's insane to me. So they would take things that, like 18 months after my husband finished his surveillance, never thought about it again, a threatening note was put on the door of the victim in New Jersey. 18 months later, 18 months, and they charged my husband with that. And this address was public. This was like on the stand. We found out the address came from a gang member in California who wasn't arrested. So we're like, how can they find him guilty? He had nothing to do with it, that at all, nothing. But
this is so surreal, Martha, and I can't imagine living through it. You're talking about 4.5 years. First of all, in 2016, the FBI, that was Trump's FBI, if I'm not mistaken.
correct. And that's the same FBI that was spying on him. That was James Comey. That was going after Carter Page,
right,
and
right. So this was back when Trump kind of trusted James Comey and put him in that position, and then later learned.
Also, what we've learned throughout this is that they were keeping this secret, and we've had people come forward recently that were part of the FBI, and they were told they were walled off from this case and not included. So the intelligence community in the DOJ and national security was keeping this case under seal and not sharing information with the FBI in New York. And it cost a lot of people they put my family in danger by not doing that, like by not warning our family. They're supposed to do that. It's called the duty to warn. So what was happening in 2016 when Comey was in charge and then Christopher Wray came in is they were doing these illegal search warrants they were spying on people, and it was out of control. There were rogue agents, 2 in particular in our case, that were really walling off even their own supervisors, we come to find out, about this case. And they were dealing with
motivated all of that. Like what about your husband's case motivated that type of action, that type of subterfuge, if you will?
I think that the New York FBI, who was the hub of the fox hunt operations, these are called fox hunt operations, where Chinese police officers come and they try to coerce people to go back to China. When the hub of New York FBI was not looped into New Jersey wanted to do their own case. They didn't want to bring in the New York FBI because New York FBI wasn't arresting private investigators. They knew private investigators were being unwittingly used. And my husband fell into that category because the New York FBI had several cases where PIs were used and they warned them. In the case, there's an Iranian journalist who was targeted and a PI had been used for 3 months to follow her. The New York FBI spoke to that PI and brought him in to work with them. That's what they should have done here. And instead, they went off on their own and they charged my husband. It was more about we are going to do what we want to do as opposed to what we should do. And it was a huge mistake. I mean, huge, huge mistake, not just for our family, not for justice, because there was no evidence against my husband, zero. It was about national security of our country. So when my husband pushed back, they went double down on him and they started trying to find out things about him personally to go after him. And they found nothing because my husband doesn't break the law. My husband doesn't do the wrong thing. They went back to his NYPD career and they found one complaint from the year 2000 where a gang member's mother came in and screamed at my husband because my husband called the gang member stupid. That was what the
complaint that they
that
found.
was the complaint. Now my husband worked in the Bronx, okay? He probably had 10,000 interactions. He was a sergeant, he was a school safety sergeant. He was in several shootings, he had 78 medals that he earned while he was on the NYPD. To find one complaint, and this is what they did. It was like they did anything they could to make him look like a bad person, but he's not. And follows the law. So it was pain. It was torture. I mean, to listen every day.
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. And knowing what you knew. And so here we sit today, we're in, mid to late June of 2025.
Right.
You're still dealing with this, obviously. What does your husband face now?
So he's supposed to turn himself in a week from today for 18 months. The judge gave him 18 months. These people were not victims. They were not dissidents from China. They had committed crimes in China and in the United States. That's one thing. These people lied on the stand to put my husband in federal prison. Why would he feel remorse for people who perjured themselves to try to put him away? A. B. If my husband had been contacted in 2016 about to help, to bring in anything that happened to those people after the fact would have never happened. So how can he feel remorse for doing his job? He did nothing wrong and nothing he did furthered anything against them. So he's supposed to turn himself a week from Monday in Michigan. We didn't even know that he was supposed to go to Michigan. Nobody told us. We had to find out on our own. They're sending him 600 miles away
from his family.
600 miles away from our family. And for what? He did nothing wrong.
This is insane to me. I almost feel like I'm being read a work of fiction. I mean, this is insane. Your overall sense here, I mean, kind of the big picture is that the government doesn't want to lose this case.
Right.
I'm still in shock. There's a China connection here, right? There's a
big.
Yeah. How much do you think that has to do with the way your husband is being treated, with the way this case has been treated?
It's everything. I think it was a China optics case. I think that the FBI really, really messed up across the board on Chinese operations in the United States of America. They went down the wrong lanes. They didn't share information. And they threw this case together in August of 2020, right before the election of Donald Trump. And the China issue was a huge issue for Trump. Like he was really like, what are you doing about China?
Right.
And I think they threw this together as kind of an optics case to say, look what we're doing. but they're not doing anything. And they couldn't go backwards and fix what they had already broken. And they threw my husband in there for media because I'm sorry, NYPD gets press. His picture was a full page picture in the New York Post. Nobody, I'm sorry, but the other defendants were not US citizens. So it was almost like that I feel that they were protecting China. They were working with the CCP in this case. They were working with the CCP in this case. So instead of, I guess they figured he's going to take a plea deal. No one will ever find out. Well, we didn't. And we found out that there was giving favor to the alleged victim was a Wuhan official here illegally in this country since 2010 who had, this was, who's helping this person? Who's assisting this person? And we found out at trial that this FBI agent in New Jersey was assisting him and his family with his immigration and a civil lawsuit against him. So what's really going on here? Why were they working with the CCP in this case for years? CCP agents, they were talking to them, but they never brought in the American law enforcement. You had 3 NYPD detectives that had touched this case and 2 federal agents that my husband had spoken to about this case. They were never spoken to in their 4 years investigation. The FBI never, because if they brought them in, it would ruin whatever else was going on. And they didn't want them to come in to sniff around with this, because my husband and the other NYPD guys would be like, are you kidding me? You're working with, wait a minute. Who's really the criminals here? Not our US law enforcement. So there was a lot of backdoor deals going on that are very dirty. And it came out at trial, but we couldn't ask anybody about it. It was suppressed during trial.
This is crazy.
Yes, you're right.
Has your husband appealed this judgment against him?
So we tried to do a post-trial motion for, and we lost that. But he'll go to an appeal, but you can't file an appeal until you're sentenced, and you're sentenced. So until he was sentenced, we couldn't even start the appeal process. It's kind of backwards. Like, you feel like, okay, you're sentenced, you're convicted, you should be able to start right away. That doesn't work that way. You have to be sentenced first. So the second he was sentenced, that ball started rolling. But he said he didn't want to file bail pending appeal because he had enough, and he really felt we had never won a ruling in 4.5 years. The idea that the judge would allow him to stay out bail pending appeal was nil in our minds. And he said, I'm done. If they're going to sentence me to 18 months in federal prison, that's their decision. I will appeal it, but I'm going to fight like I'm being deployed in the front lines, because I'm fighting for everybody. And we're the voice of the voiceless. There's so many people. I'm getting calls, I'm getting emails, I'm getting, please, you're not alone. We're going through the same thing. So we have to use this for some sort of purpose to draw attention to, why do they win 99% of the time? Why are they indicted? 99% of people indicted why? Because they can't see the grand jury. You never know what they tell the grand jury. So they are covered and hidden by what they tell, the grand jury. And we're trying to work on that too. It's just terrible. It's truly, it's like I said, it's almost like how could this be happening?
Right.
And I don't think until it's over, I'll be able to look back. You're in a fight or flight every single day of trying to save your family.
I can't imagine that. And you're also in the public eye. So fortunately, that is helpful in a way that you are getting maybe more attention than these people you're hearing from who are emailing and saying, keep fighting, because they don't have your platform. Have you thought about, or is there a process in place to let the White House know? Trump issues pardons, and this sounds like it's right up his alley.
Yes. So it is being reviewed right now. We've been told that it is under review for our pardon clemency. I have been out there, like you said, from the rooftops, because I know Donald Trump was targeted the same way. using lawfare, using the justice system and against him and twisting. There is no law. Like, if it's a law, that should be the law. That's not what goes on.
Right.
And with Trump's cases in New York, they changed it, just changed it so that they could go
Yes.
after him. And
Yes.
with my husband, they took legal private investigative work and try to make it look illegal, which is to the jury, and they got away with it. So I know when Donald Trump hears the details of this story, he's a back the blue guy.
Yeah.
When he hears about my husband with his 78 medals, he's a 9/11 first responder, a hero. My husband is a hero who would put his life on the line, would do it today for a stranger. I know that he would be, I really believe in my heart that he would say, wow, man, I've been there. This is what happens to, if you're targeted by them, good luck, because they want to win at all costs. They'll do anything to win, anything to win. It's so sad.
So we know why they targeted Trump. They didn't want him
Yeah.
reelected. Why do you think they targeted your husband?
He had worked on a case, in a federal case. He's worked on many, many cases as it's a CGA. It's like a investigator that's paid by the government, and many federal cases. And he worked on a very high profile case over his career as a PI. And when the arresting officer, the FBI officer, came here, my husband said, "Are you here about the Paul Bergren case?" And he said, "I know you from that case. It's not the first time you were on my board." So my husband's like, his wheels are turning. And we felt that there was some sort of personal bias against my husband out of the Newark, New Jersey, because that's where that case was out of, field office. And we filed prosecutorial misconduct motions in 2022 regarding that in detail. And we were denied hearings on it to further look into that. That's one angle. I also think that there was a lot of NYPD things going on, investigations about China influencing and getting into the NYPD and using the NYPD, and they were squashed. Those investigations were squashed. So I feel like my husband checked some boxes. He checked the NYPD box, he checked the PI box, and he checked the "we don't kind of like you" box because you were doing your job and we didn't like that you were doing your job. And because the people I've spoken to who worked in the New York office said we never would have arrested him. He would have been a great asset to bring in. And I'll tell you why. This is the first time Chinese police officers recruited an NYPD retired American to do something for them. Now, meanwhile, my husband did legal PI work. It was a civil matter. They wanted to find, and this guy had millions of dollars in houses and properties, and he had donated to Hillary Clinton in 2016, we just found out. And I'm sorry, if you're a high-ranking member of the CCP from Wuhan, and you're saying you fled here, why are you donating to Hillary Clinton in 2016 under your own name? Like, why wouldn't the FBI, they'd want to bring him in, and we would have learned so much, they said, that we would have learned so much just from Mike. And it was ignored in New Jersey. And we lost a lot of things. We had police stations, Chinese police stations popped up, infiltration into universities, spy balloons. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that they didn't bring him in and the intel they could have gathered really frustrates the good cops, the good FBI agents, the good FBI field officers who are like, oh my gosh, what a missed opportunity here. So I think there's a combination.
As you're telling me this story, Martha, it almost sounds to me as though your husband was targeted because he was a good cop. That they could get away with doing something someone who had nothing negative in their background, who had nothing like no leverage in that kind of backdoor corruption kind of way. Do you get that sense at all?
I think it's almost the opposite. I think they like, one of the comments the arresting officer said, "You did a really good job on this case." Meaning, he was like, "What are you talking about?" And now we realize it had something to do with what he had uncovered early on about the subject, like this money laundering that looked like a money laundering trail. But I think it was the opposite. I think they clipped him hoping and thinking, well, everybody's got something in their past. We'll get something on him later on, tax evasion or
Right.
some, lying to the. I think it was it was, and he even said, the arresting officer said, we thought long and hard about who we were going to arrest today. So what does that tell you?
What does
This,
it
if
tell
this is,
you?
well, it's a 4-year investigation, and now you're thinking long and hard about who to. Now, here's what I think. I About a few months after his arrest, we got a letter in the mail, similar to what Kash Patel was talking about when he got his letter that he had been spied on, that there was a warrant on his emails, iCloud, whatever it was, and we got the same letter. So what happens is after they close the search warrant, they have to let you know within 5 years that they were spying on you. Well, we got ours in 2021, which we assumed after his arrest, they had looked at everything, your blood type, they know everything about you. It's disgusting. But I think they were like, you know what? He's going to get a letter in about 5 months that we've been spying on him for years. If we arrest him right now, he'll take a plea deal, blah, 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 and we'll move on with our lives. It's a good, I really think that, because if my husband had gotten a letter 5 months and he had not been arrested, all hell would have broken loose, because the first phone call would be to our attorney going, what are you talking about? We were never told he was under investigation. Why were they spying on us? What did they look at? Did they look at our children's phones? Did they follow our children? We had drones over our house. Listen, what they've done to my family, how they violated our privacy I can't even begin to tell you. But I think they thought, all right, he's going to find out that we've been spying on him eventually. So why don't we just clip him now and hope for the best? And it backfired on them. They won. They dug in, but I'm saying is that because we fought back, we started seeing discovery. We started looking at the evidence, which again, I don't know if you've been following that story about these files, like ghost files, where you can't get into the files. Like the prosecutors hand over discovery and then the files are ghosted so that they say, oh, we've handed you everything, but they've encrypted it so much that you can't open it. That happened to us. We got discovery. We couldn't open it. It was so heavily encrypted that we couldn't open it. And we asked the government for assistance. They said, no, you're on your own. And then they would say, well, we've provided everything that we were obligated to provide to you. Like, well, where is it? Where is X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
So what I'm saying, this was a coordinated effort to make my husband cave. You're talking millions of dollars in legal fees. You're talking about maybe losing your house. You're talking about your children being exposed to the media, the abuse. But we're not going to cave. I told Mike the first day, I said, you did nothing wrong. We're going to fight this to the end. I said, we can make more money. I said, there's a lot of things we can do. I said, we can't get your integrity back. And my children need to see that if you did nothing wrong, you don't take a plea, you don't say, oh, well. And my husband said he was so touched because last week, all 3 kids came to him. They said, we are so proud of you for fighting back.
That's what
And
you
he said, that was
do.
everything to me.
Oh, I bet that was just unbelievable.
Yes.
What a Father's Day gift, right? To have your children tell you they're proud of you for fighting. And so I know now people can help you if they
Yes.
want to. What's the best way for you to get help?
Well, thank you for asking. I wrote a book that just came out. It's called In the Interest of Justice, and you can get it on Amazon. It's getting great response, which makes me feel so grateful that people are going to get to hear our story. And
Right.
everything that I earned from that is going right back into our defense fund. But the Pipe Hitter Foundation, if it's Pipe Hitter with H, pipehitterfoundation.org, O-R-G. That's Eddie Gallagher's foundation. He was falsely arrested for murder. He was a retired Navy SEAL captain. He and his wife started a foundation for first responders and military who were falsely accused. They've been with us from the beginning for years, helping us raise money for our defense. You can go there, and they're in a wonderful organization. And they were the first ones to call us and say, "We believe you,"
Wow.
and we want to pay that forward. Everything we earn goes right to the defense. We'll never be able to pay it back in full. It's going to take years to do that. but at least our lawyers were very patient with us and know he's innocent, and they're working with us, we're very grateful for that. But, look, what I want people to know is that when you support organizations like the Pipe Hitter Foundation, that will go forward for the next person who needs this kind of assistance and help.
Right.
We're very blessed. Like you said, I have a platform where people can hear our story, but this 5 years can't be for nothing.
Yeah.
The oversight committee, James Comer's oversight committee, used this case in the report of the CCP in 2024, saying it never should have happened. That was incredible that the oversight committee recognized that this case never should have been brought in. I'm paraphrasing, but if you read it, it's incredible. I mean, it was mind-blowing to me. And Pam Bondi, even on her first day, clarified the FARA law, saying it should be about espionage so that people like Mike wouldn't get arrested. And she worked on also about defendants being able to defend themselves properly at trial using their evidence. You should be able to use your evidence to
That's
defend
crazy
yourself.
to me, and that you never won sort of a judgment on any of
Not
those
one.
things is disgusting to me, and
It is.
it's very, very telling. And
Yes.
you hate to hear that this stuff happens in America, right?
I agree.
mean, it's like, particularly to someone of your husband's stature, his background, his heroism at every turn. This is so frustrating to hear. But I'm so impressed that you have fought it the way that you have, and that your family is stuck together, and that you have people who have supported you. And that's what we want to emphasize, so that people can come and support you as well. So we're going to put all those things that you mentioned in the show notes as well. Get her book, get the book. That will help support this. Pipehittersfoundation.org.
Yep. Pipehitterfoundation.org. And Michael McMahon has his own page, and there's updates about the case in there. And they've really been incredible to us. So, and we've had really wonderful support from Michael Lawler, Congressman Lawler, and James Comer, and people were listening. And in the beginning, people said, "Don't bother with DC. Don't bother. They're not going to help you." I said, "Well, that was the first thing you shouldn't have told me, because now I really want to make some difference. Don't tell me no."
Yeah, right.
No. Yeah, no.
Well, it's interesting. I've just been communicating with Congressman Lawler of New York, and we're scheduling a time to talk. So this will definitely come up in my podcast episode with him as well.
Great. He's been great. He wrote a letter to the judge in support of Mike, saying he was innocent, with Congressman Sessions. He was interviewed by the New York Post after his sentencing and saying this is outrageous, Michael Lawler. So he was with us before he even elected. He came out right away and said, I want to support your family and help anyway. And he's not he's not my representative. So he's an amazing man. He needs to be recognized for what he's done for us. And just because it was the right thing to do. It's just the right thing to do. More people need to do that,
yes, in life in general, correct. But particularly when someone's freedom is at stake. Yes. And your husband's freedom is at stake right now. His integrity, like you said, that old saying, where do I go to get my integrity back? Where do I go to get my reputation back?
Right.
That is criminal, to do that to another human being. It's absolutely criminal. I applaud you. We support you.
Thank you.
And seriously hope. And I have this little feeling, honestly, and I hope I'm right, that something's going to change. And so in the meantime, we're going to be sending you our very best wishes. We're going to be helping you sell this book. We're going to be bringing attention to it and sending you all the support that we possibly can, Martha. It is so nice to meet you. I hate that it's under these circumstances.
I know. I know.
But you're a stud. You're a strong woman. You're badass. And we love that here. We always say to our listeners, be brave and do good. And you are doing both of those things to the nines. So all the best to you.
God bless you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. We really are, listen, no one walks alone. No one walks alone. You really need your army. And I have an army. And thank you for being a part of that army. And we will win in the end. The truth always has to win. Good has to conquer evil. It has to.
It has to.
Just doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but it's going to be worth
it. But it will be worth it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Hey, you can keep up with the Trump administration when you subscribe to the Trump Report. It's an email that brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. Subscribe today at SalemPodcastNetwork.com/Trump.